Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hey, welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino. And today I have a special guest. His name is Ari Rastegar. Hey, Ari, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me this morning.
Yeah, definitely. Just to give you a little bit of content, Ari runs a private equity firm in Texas. He started his business with just $3,000 right out of law school, and definitely we want to type into all of that. So, Ari, why don't you tell me more about your background and actually start with where are you originally from and how did you come about? How was your upbringing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was born here in Austin, Texas, where our firm is headquartered. My parents were immigrants. My dad is Iranian, mother is German. And, I hate when I hear these rags to riches and those kinds of things. Look, we didn't have too much growing up by any stretch of the imagination, but, my parents were both, very into. Mark Twain would say, I never let education interfere with, school, or let schooling interfere with my education.
Mm-hmm.
And, my parents were always big readers, very into health, very into wellness. So I was very lucky to kind of grow up around that. My parents divorced when I was really young and lived with my mom until I was about 9 or 10, and then lived with my dad through middle school and high school. I was an English major in undergrad. I've always been, seeing myself as an artist, really, in a lot of ways. Like, my day job is risk management and, is math. But, I very much love the creation of a home, as an example of like, what's that going to look like? The architecture, the layout, the color schemes, the visceral experience, the customer experience. And, that's really been the DNA of what we do, right? Like what I do technically is buy great real estate on behalf of institutional investors, family offices, public pension funds, athletes, celebrities, doctors, lawyers, you name it. But, the why I do it is, to create something beautiful, create something that will last the test of time, that will create employment, and quite frankly, just make life easier and more enjoyable for our end users, right? And I freaking flipped burgers in high school, delivered pizzas through college, went to 2 community colleges before, getting into Texas A&M, then going to law school. And I actually started the business in law school, so I borrowed $3,000 from my friend's dad that I went to college with, and started building single family homes with a local developer, little $80,000, $100,000 homes north of San Antonio. And really snowballed it from there. 2008 came, and I thought I was going to walk away a pretty wealthy guy by my standards at that time. And 2008 came and kind of wiped the whole thing out, and had to start from scratch. And went to New York City and worked for some of the biggest names in the world in New York, and started an entertainment company that really parlayed into how we marry pop culture into real estate now, which is a great education. But then a big ice storm hit when we were running that, and that was a kick in the teeth. And then we were going to do a party at the Playboy Mansion, and Legionnaire's disease broke out. So just about everything that could ever go wrong went wrong in the process.
Yeah.
And but we just kept showing up, and I think that's there's something to be said about that, right? When you talk about overcoming anything, or as I'm looking at your screen, it says even when the word says no.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of play with that and say the sale doesn't even start until they say no.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's just a request, right?
I love that. Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
no, no. If they don't say no, then there's nothing off the game.
You haven't even gotten to the first step, right?
Yeah, you haven't
Yeah.
got to the first step. Like you just
Yeah.
made a request, but but look, it's so much of it is showing up and how you show up, right?
Yeah.
What that means and whatever you do. And I feel very fortunate to, have great mentors and people that listen to these shows
Yeah.
and are able to extrapolate, knowing that, if you're not getting kicked in the teeth, you're not doing anything, right?
Right.
My book
Exactly.
comes out in September or August, September. We haven't picked the exact date yet, and it's called The Gift of Failure.
Mm.
And really finding introspection into whatever it is that you have to overcome per se, and you find that issue, you find that challenge. And I'm of the belief that the universe doesn't put something in your path that you don't have the capacity to either learn from, expand from, um, and move on to the next. And when that's your meaning, no matter what the challenge that comes, it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt like a motherfucker, but it does mean that you have the intrinsic capacity to deal with it. And it's about that the meaning that you give to that. And I've always believed, or I've come to believe more, that life was happening for me all along, not to me. And so whatever that seeming obstacle is, I've come to look at more as a blessing and more as a challenge to grow, than anything else. Doesn't mean it doesn't suck at the time. Still
Right.
sucks,
Exactly. No, and I love that, because you can definitely, from that perspective too, it's like, it's so much about what are you going to do about it, right? A lot of times you get hit with all these different things,
Yeah,
obstacles, whatever the case may be. And it's like, now you have to decide the outcome, and the outcome is going to be determined on what do you do about it. Do you just sit down and let it,
that's right.
right?
But what you do about it, right? If you go a little bit, before what you do about it, the action, it's what
Mm-hmm.
you mean. Because we put meanings to things. Like
Right.
if you're, stuck in the rain and you're late to a meeting, that could mean I'm a loser. I'm going to miss my thing. I'm a loser. My time management sucks. Or it could mean, thank God this rain came. It slowed me down. I got to think a little bit better, and now I'm prepared for the interview. Like, so we choose the meaning. Like, we can't necessarily choose what happens, right? You get hit for whatever it is, but what is it going to mean? And at this
Right.
point in my life, I focus so much of my time around, what does this mean? And if I find myself in a negative inner dialogue of a negative meaning, I try to ask myself a better question. Could this mean something else?
Mm.
Could this mean something else? And it's a powerful statement when we get stuck in that moment of, of the suckiness, right? And, Matthew McConaughey has talked about this in, various modalities. And Robert Downey Jr. most recently explained it as hugging the cactus.
Mm.
When he had to become sober, and he had Mel Gibson was kind of his mentor that pulled him out of it, and you can see him talk about it on YouTube. But he told him, he had to hug the cactus.
Yeah.
And once you're able to kind of hug that cactus, so to speak, or as Mark Twain said, eat the frog,
Mm-hmm.
um, you start to see things differently. And asking better questions elicits better answers, because questions are the answer.
Right.
If you want the right answer, ask the right fucking question.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Right.
if you're not getting the right answer, ask a different question.
Right.
And then once you have the right meaning, then you go towards, what are you going to do about it?
Right. And I actually love that. A lot of times we forget that everything that we're going through, there's some sort of lessons. I always tell people that, you have to look at it from that perspective, and what lessons can you extract? What was the thing you had to learn from whatever that might have been, even if it was something that really sucked, and, it wasn't enjoyable, whatever that might have been, there's a lesson to be learned. And when we look at that lesson, we, as you mentioned, and I love the idea of you have to ask better questions, and if you're not getting what you want, ask another question, right? And so definitely that's a pretty good statement from that perspective.
Yeah, and that's right. And there's so much of this is how we talk to ourselves. There's, we a lot of time, myself included, get wrapped up in how we're dealing with other people, and not enough time spending on how we're dealing with ourselves. because you have to live with you, right? You live with
Right.
you every day. And what is your inner dialogue? Like, what
Right.
is your inner dialogue? And, with my life coach that I've had for, over a decade, when I have found myself in those states of negative thought patterns, which we all experience, which is, I think very much part of certainly the Western human condition, uh, you have to learn to recognize that.
Hmm.
And you have to learn to find a way that for your authentic self or your best self to tell that voice to be quiet, or learn which voice to listen to and ask a better question, or um, truly know that there is a lesson in everything, in the good and the bad, like whatever is going on. Like, but that again is a belief. You have to believe that that's something. I'm going to find the lesson in this, the silver lining. Like, this is not jargon. Like, this is like you can, but there really is a lesson. Like,
Right.
really, like, so
Yeah.
are you going to learn it? Like, or is your ego going to get in the way? Or are you going to
Yeah,
feel,
exactly.
again, it sucks. And I can't state that enough. Like, it hurts. So when you go look into a failure, or you go look at an obstacle that that you're responsible for, it's not very comfortable, right? And
Right.
so if you can take that discomfort and be like, "Ooh, okay, well, that kind of didn't feel so good, but
Yeah.
I'm going to mine for gold. I'm going to bring my little sifter and I'm going to kind of go like this and get rid of all that dirt and dust and muck that I'm kind of covered in, and find that little one jewel and put it in my pocket and move on with my day."
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I want to take it back a little bit. So you talked about it during high school, or you were doing pizza, you were doing hamburgers, all these different things. Where did the idea come about you wanting to become your own boss, and how did that come about? That inspiration for you at what point in your life?
Well, look, we make change for two real reasons: inspiration or desperation.
Mm.
That's the reason why most people do things. And most people will do more to avoid pain than they will to seek pleasure.
Yep.
Okay. I, so my father's family came over here. We're here a little bit before the Iranian Revolution, when the monarchy turned into an Islamic regime, which is, you know, it's become a little bit radical for, kind of for my taste, right? And I'm, never one to judge another person's, belief system or what they do, but my family's belief system at the time of the revolution was not congruent with that. So they killed pretty much our whole family. And do I hold any negative charge around that? Absolutely not. Like, no, I don't mean to say any of that stuff, but they had to rebuild. They had to rebuild from scratch and overcome those things. And it taught me the value of hard work to rebuild. But I'd be remiss to tell you that there wasn't a little bit of rage inside of me that wanted to kind of get that back. Wanted to. My grandfather was, one of the most famous doctors in Iran. My namesake was a, 5-star general in the Iranian army. And I wanted my kids to have something to be proud of. My grandfather wanted me to put my name on the wall, to remind me that it wasn't my name, and that,
Yeah.
I stand on the shoulders of giants. And it brought an element of humility, but the risk of not trying, and that pain that it would have caused me would have been greater than trying and potentially failing. And now we built obviously an enormous business, and it worked out, with a little luck,
Yeah.
a little luck, a little hard work. But to me, there was never a choice. Like, this was going to be my destiny, and I wasn't going to stop until we did something meaningful and did something special. And it came from a place more of desperation than of inspiration. And I wish I could tell you that I woke up one day happy go lucky and this was what I was going to go do. But I was just so mad that I had to go out and go do something. And that madness and that rage has now been alchemized into love.
Yeah.
But it didn't start that way.
Yeah, sometimes from pain, a purpose is born, right? And perhaps this is kind of that, the idea here, right?
Of A lot of pain, a lot of pain. And, you know, I'll tell the young entrepreneurs out there that are overcoming things, as we all are, and we never know what the other person is really struggling with or where they are in their life. And that's where really kindness and compassion come in. And I mean that from the compassion that we show ourselves,
Yeah.
you know, that we speak to ourselves. So as we're going through these obstacles, which we all are, we need to find a way to give ourselves some grace, to give ourselves, you know, a little bit of love, a little bit
Right.
of, hey, you're doing the best you can if you are, you know, and if you're really up there, sometimes, you know, just standing up in the morning is a feat in and of itself for a lot of people. Just getting up every day and putting one foot in front of the other is work and is commendable and is not easy. So we don't know where everybody is on their journey to get to wherever it is they're trying to get, right? And for me, it's very important to acknowledge what that inner dialogue is and have that compassion not only for ourselves but, you know, kind of for others, right? Because you're gonna need that when you start getting punched in the face and you start, you know, think the bad stuff starts happening. You're gonna need, you know, that warm blanket, and you certainly have to find a way to be your own warm blanket and not really expect it from anybody else.
Right. Yeah. And what was the if you were to say the time frame to kind of get you to a level where you were like, I started with $3,000 and now I'm kind of comfortable? Because a lot of people see that, and especially people that are barely getting to the business, they see that overnight success, right?
You use the word comfortable?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't do that word.
Okay. So
Um,
when you
I deliberately stay uncomfortable.
okay, and that's actually a good point, and I want to tap into
I'm
that. So
perfectly comfortable being uncomfortable.
ex- there you go. Exactly.
But we don't kick on the cool. We don't kick on the coolers. There ain't
right.
no time for celebration. There ain't no time for comfort. Not a damn moment. So, in the words of the immortal, notorious B.I.G., more money, more problems.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Definitely.
And so I'm always pushing the envelope. I'm always moving, but comfort. The few words that I you know don't understand are can't, uncomfortable, and try, or comfortable, try. We
Right.
don't try, we only do, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and
There's no such thing as trying, for sure. And I love that too. Yeah, for sure.
you ain't trying. Either you did it or you didn't do it, period. Either the bucket dropped or it didn't,
Right.
period. That doesn't mean
Exactly.
you don't go back and shoot again. Like I'm not,
Right.
perfection is for something I'm not after. I'm after excellence,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, if that makes sense or not, but
No, it definitely does. It definitely does. I mean, I'm a big believer of
what
that.
you were trying to ask is it took 10 years.
10 years, right? So it took you 10 years to get to where, to a good
To a place
to a good place, right?
well, right, everything's relative. So Forbes called me the Oracle of Austin back in, April.
Okay.
Okay. And so I think if we look from the outside looking in, which is never the truth, I think a lot of people would think I'm pretty comfortable. And so, but I'm not on purpose. There's work to be done every day. There's work to be done no matter what. But I started this journey when I was 18 years old, starting college. And then I had a 9-year goal to become an attorney. And then, so I say 10 years as, 10, 12 years as a professional real estate investor. But I got 20 years in this of 120, 140 hours a week. And I've never been on a vacation in my life. Right. So you add that number up on a 40-hour work week. I'm 30, 40 years into this thing. Yeah, I'm 39 years old, but by most people's standards, I've been working 3 full-time jobs for the better part of 20 years.
Right.
So overnight success, they asked Messi, when he first started, really getting notoriety, he said, they asked him, how does it feel to be an overnight success? He said, yeah, well, it only took me 17 years and 164 days to become an overnight success.
Right.
So for those out there that are starting their businesses and starting their journey, people dramatically overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and dramatically underestimate what they can accomplish in 10.
Mm. Yeah.
So, you have to every day have those short-term goals, that you want to accomplish. Having the big goals, fine. But as Warren Buffett says, with 9 women, you can't make a baby in 1 month.
Mm.
So things
Very
take
true.
time to grow. It's the law of nature. And you have to be prepared for that. And you have to be prepared for it to be extremely difficult.
Right.
And if you don't think it's going to be hard, you're not only lying to yourself, but you're telling yourself a really toxic lie. I expect it to be hard every single day. So when it is, at least I'm not surprised.
Right. Exactly.
I'm
And
not
that
saying
was,
so bye, but I'm not surprised it's hard.
yeah, right. And that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make here, or making here, is the fact that it's a process, right? And for me, I also believe that sometimes you have to really enjoy the journey, probably more so than the destination, from my perspective, right?
Yeah, Cesar, I'll tell you one thing. I'll stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
And, we've come to a place where, as a society, where if we disagree, that means we don't respect each other. And I'm
No.
going to respectfully disagree with you, is
Yeah.
that loving the process is completely overrated
Mm.
to me. It's very difficult in hindsight,
Hmm.
looking back on that process and loving it and respecting it is one thing. But when you're in the middle of hell, to say that you're loving that process,
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Does it mean that you trust the process and you work the process and you have a plan? Absolutely. And you must trust the process, and you must find in the process. If you're a basketball player, just shooting those free throws every single day, as boring as it gets, as monotonous as it gets, you have to trust the process. But loving the process is a tough one. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I don't think that word has been weighed properly in describing that part of the hero's journey. But you certainly have to trust it. I don't know about loving it, but you certainly got to trust it.
Yeah, it comes down to an emotion, right? And it really comes down to all of that. But yeah, I do agree with that. And for those that don't know the hero's journey, I mean, you come to a point where you're down, and you got to be able to. There's the reborn, right?
Yeah, you're in the dip.
Yep, exactly. And so that's exactly where you might not be enjoying any of that stuff for sure.
No, but that doesn't mean that you're not in love with your why.
Right.
Be in love with what your outcome is going to be, and stay true to that with deep heart value. But in those moments when you get those soul crushing failures, which we've all experienced, and I certainly have, and
Right.
the first line of my book is, I hope you fail. In fact, I hope you fail a lot, because success taught me nothing in comparison to what my failures were. And as John Maxwell talks about, failing forward,
Right.
Failing forward. But it's all about, as we said earlier, what are your beliefs and what is the meaning that you give to those things? Because that is what you can control. There's so much of these things that are completely uncontrollable, but you need to give the meaning that you choose.
Right.
And you really can. It can be the, oh, fuck, poor me, or does this mean I got more time to train?
Right.
I got more time to perfect this thing. Oh, that sale didn't go through. Okay, well, this is an opportunity to enhance, to get better, to learn, to evolve, to come together as a team. And that's what the dialogue must be if you're going to have long-term sustainable success.
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple more questions for you before I let you go. You talked about mentors. You've had somebody for over 10 years. Tell me more on terms of that. Why is that important to you, to have mentors and really seek advice from other people?
Well, all great performers, right, had a coach. The greatest in the world of just about everything has a coach or a teacher in some modality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Look at anybody. Sports is always the low-hanging fruit. And I'm not the big sports guys, unless it's one of my investors that I'm watching them because they're my friends and I love them. And but as a student of greatness, You have coaches. Phil Jackson never could have guarded Michael Jordan.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, right? But that was his coach, right? And he
Yeah.
taught him things. And or Tim Grover, you know, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's, you know, trainer. There was never a point where he could go one-on-one with Kobe. It's just you can get slaughtered, but nonetheless, that was his trainer, and he taught him how to perform. And so, having Lauren Zander, who is, you know, her and Tony Robbins are probably the biggest life coaches in the world, and I've been with Lauren for 10 years. And there's some days where we talk 3 times a day, and it's about having an outside source, being surrounded by believable people. But what I want to really reiterate about mentorship is that mentorship does not and should not be all humanistic. Books, podcasts. I've learned more from books, podcasts, listening. Like the human part of mentorship, I think, is dramatically overrated. I really do. I think that you can, like, reading Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, you'll get more out of that, or I certainly did, than you will from sitting and talking to whoever the person you're talking, you know, whoever that person is. So you know, watching, you know, like if I want to learn about, because I'm a very curious person, quantum physics, right, which I'm very interested in for a variety of reasons, artificial intelligence, I can go on YouTube for free and watch the greatest quantum physicists in the world, or the greatest teachers, the greatest mentors, trainers, whatever, for free, and literally watch MIT courses or Yale courses or Harvard courses on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
And so what better mentorship than that? You know, find all the things you're interested in, read their books, read their podcasts, look at their blogs. Well, I need to reach out to them. I want to meet them in person. That's good. I'm not saying don't do that. That's awesome. But I don't want to hear the excuse that I don't know anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't want to hear that, you know, like you can go on Amazon for $2 and buy Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which more gold and more wealth has been mined on the pages of that book than all of the gold mines in the entire world combined.
Right.
And it's $2.
Yeah.
So you don't need to meet Napoleon Hill
right.
to go find a great mentor, which I find my greatest mentors are usually just sitting right here on my desk.
Yeah. And I love that, because a lot of people do, like you said, they do attach that human aspect of it and a monetary aspect of it. And then the excuse comes of, well, now I don't have the means or the time to go and see somebody at a place.
It's right there. All the resources are right there. And I would utilize every one of the free ones. And I'll tell you, I utilize them myself. And I'm surprised every day at how much knowledge is really out there for free.
Yeah.
But you got to put the time, and you know, and that's where you lose most people. They don't want to put the time.
No, definitely. Ari, if people wanted to connect with you, find out more about, you know, your investments, your private equity firm, where can they connect with you?
I mean, look, if you Google Rastegar, you type in my name to Google, it's pretty easy to find me. You know, if you're interested, you can go to our site or go to our Instagram, or like I said, if you're looking for me, you can find me, an 11-year-old boy in the UK that I'm co-authoring a children's book with.
Nice.
If he was able to find me, I'm sure all of your sophisticated listeners can find me if they want. And they come down to Austin, Texas, look us up.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you've done a lot of work on yourself. Do you have any, Tony Robbins refers to as rituals, do you have any habits, daily habits that you do every day to put you in this positive state of mind?
Absolutely. I mean, like, and that's for another discussion. We could spend 2 hours talking about that, but we're governed by our rituals and governed by our routines. The average human person has 60,000 thoughts a day. And, you know, which one of those are the ones that are putting you on the path of the GPS system to get you where you want to go? One of my main rituals is transcendental meditation, or TM, and along with a slew of other things, but that one is a big one. And I urge everybody listening that needs more equanimity, more peace, and more stillness, because there's power in stillness, to go to a local transcendental meditation school. And it's, you know, they have payment plans for students and things. It's not very expensive, and, you know, they let you break it up into installments, but we're talking about $800, which is probably one of the best $800 investments you can make. And it's something that you do with yourself twice a day, 20 minutes a day, morning and night. And the dividends that will pay are so extraordinary that I would do an injustice by trying to put it into words.
Yeah, awesome. And my last question is for the people that are watching us, if they're going through any kind of challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing you can say to them, or a couple of things you can say to them so they can start overcoming that challenge?
Well, one is you're not alone. You're not alone. And don't fucking stop.
Yeah, I love that.
Don't fucking stop.
Yeah,
yeah. If you're going through hell, you certainly don't want to stay in hell. So what's your other option? You better just keep walking.
Right.
Exactly. Because if you stop, you know where you're going to be. So what do you got to lose?
Right. Exactly.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going, whatever that takes. Right.
Just like Nike, just do it. Right.
Just do it like Nike. I say that all the time, but
yeah.
The main point is take comfort in knowing you're not alone.
Right.
You're not alone. There's other people there that are many more than you think that are also struggling, and take a little solace in that. And tighten up your Nikes. I prefer my Adidas, but your Nikes, whatever shoes you got on your feet. And if you ain't got no shoes, just keep walking and keep running. Because whatever's out there is certainly a lot better than where you're standing at that moment.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I love it. Well, Ari, thank you again for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you. And again, thank you again for being here.
Yeah, send us over all the material when you got it.
Yeah, definitely. And for the rest of you guys, please make sure you check out Ari and his company. Please make sure that you sign up and you comment and share this podcast. Somebody needs to hear this message. I'll see you guys in the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.